This is a second demonstration video for FullStack.cash. Once you get started using the BCH.js library to interact with the Bitcoin Cash blockchain, you'll probably pretty quickly start getting error messages that you're exceeding the rate limits and you need to create an account at FullStack.cash. And it's going to say something about JWT Tokens, and if you're unfamiliar with it, that's what this video is for, is to explain what a JWT token is and how it's used in FullStack.cash. So first of all, these JWT tokens, or JWT, it stands for JSON Web Token, and it's a standard format for authentication to make sure that the people who are allowed to use a system can use it and it's not getting abused by random people on the internet. And so that's really the main purpose of the JWT token, is to prevent abuse of the system. So probably the best way is just to get started. If you go to the FullStack.cash website, you'll see this button that says sign up, and it's very easy to create an account. You just put your email and choose a password and hit create, and bam, away you go. For this demonstration, I'm going to use the official demo account, which you can use as well, and it's demo@demo.com with a password of demo. And so if you log in, you can see kind of what the FullStack.cash dashboard looks like. And in this account, so in this, you're going to get a QR code, and a Bitcoin Cash address is going to be assigned to you when you create an account. And if you were to, there's these different tiers of JWT token. This will probably be simplified. So there's just a free tier or a paid tier that's for $30. Having these different tiers is a little too complicated for most people. So right now, if you try and get the top $30 a month tier with this, you'll get an error because it's going to say there's not enough credit in your account. But you don't need to pay anything to get started. You can actually just select, as long as you create an account, you can get a free API token, and you don't have to pay anything, and that'll increase your rate limits from 3 requests per minute to 10 requests per minute. And so that'll make the experience much better in terms of if you're working through the demos in the example repository. So you notice I just hit that get API token and I got the green message, and what it did is it updated this string of characters. This string of characters is the JWT token. That's what you're going to need. And so there, it just refreshed it and generated it. This is the JWT token. Okay, so that's what it is. How do you use it? If you go back to the FullStack.cash homepage and go back to the examples page, one of the examples listed here is this automatic JWT handling demonstration. So let's open that up. That's another GitHub repo, and what it's using is this npm library that I created for FullStack.cash, which is, let's actually look at it on npm. And this is just a really simple library on npm for interacting with the authentication server at FullStack.cash. And this demo repository, jwt-bch-demo, is a really simple app that all it does is every 10 seconds it tries to retrieve a balance for a Bitcoin Cash address. And because it happens every 10 seconds, it's going to trip the rate limits. So let's actually just run it real quick, and then we'll explain what's happening. So I have it here in the demo directory. So this is the same repository that's here on GitHub, and I've already installed. There's instructions for cloning it, entering the directory, installing your dependencies, and then so I've already done all that. So I'm just going to go npm start to run it. And so it went out and it retrieved the JWT token, it made sure the JWT token's valid, and then the application's off and running. It's checking the Bitcoin Cash address of or the balance of it, and it's doing this every 3 seconds, and so everything's coming back, and pretty soon it's going to error out because this is using the free tier, which is 10 requests per minute, and so it's doing more than that. So in a minute it's going to get this error message. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it. It's going to keep getting. Now after a minute or so, it'll go back and it'll start working again until it hits the rate limit again. And again, this is just for preventing abuse of the system. But just by creating an account, you can get this free tier, which lets you get 10 requests per minute. But what I want to point out here is this token here is the same as, let's log back into our account, as this one. So Q1K. So it went and got the same JWT token. This is when that token expires. They last for 30 days, and so it validated it. If it wasn't valid, it would request a new token automatically. So let's just look at the code and see what's happening here. jwt-bch-demo. And whenever you look at a JavaScript program, you should usually start with the package.json file, or a Node.js JavaScript program. And it's always good to look at the dependencies, and it's also good to look at the scripts. So this is using the bch.js library, Axios for making network calls, and then you can see here it's got that jwt-bch-lib npm library I was looking at earlier. And then if you go to the index, this is the other reason why you want to go to package.json is when you run npm start, this is the actual script it's running. So it's calling this index.js file, which is pretty normal. So let's look at that index.js file. So here what it's doing, the very first thing it does is it opens a config file. And here's the config file. It's got all these. So this demo is essentially a boilerplate. This is code that you can use to start with for your own application, so that you don't have to worry about this JWT token handling. It'll just happen automatically, and you can just add the code to do the things that you're interested in with the Bitcoin on the Bitcoin Cash blockchain. So going back to this config file, it's got a bunch of defaults where here's the authentication server for FullStack.cash. It's using mainnet, so it's calling the mainnet API, BCH API server. By default, it does not have a token. This BCH.js token is what is how you pass the JWT token to BCH.js. And let me actually speak to that. Back in your FullStack.cash profile page, if you scroll to the bottom, here are the instructions on how to use your JWT token. There's 2 ways to pass the JWT token into BCH.js. You can set this BCH.js token environment variable, and that passes it implicitly, because BCH.js library will just look for that environment variable and use it if it's there. Or you can pass it in explicitly by passing in this API token property when you instantiate the BCH.js library. And I'll show you how that gets done in this example. And so here, if you don't provide a login and password, it's going to default to that demo account that I showed you. And but multiple people are going to use this account, so it's a good idea to create your own account. You can still get that free token, and that way nobody else is using that token, only you are using that token. Whereas I expect lots of people to use this demo token. Anybody who runs the demos are going to use this token. And the API level, this will probably go away, but that's the free tier. Like I said, I'm probably going to simplify that. But okay, so if we go back to the demo application, so it's loaded that config file we just looked at. It instantiates the bch.js library. It also instantiates the bch.js, or the JWT library that we looked at on npm. And it has these config settings where you tell it the auth server, the login, and the password that you want to use for the auth server. And it has defaults, so we could actually just instantiate it like that, and it would work just fine. But just to show that these values are actually coming from the config file. What's nice about this config file is you could actually set your login and password as an environment variable, and that way it doesn't actually get included in code, and you don't have to worry about disclosing your login and password when you say check in code to GitHub. That's the advantage of using an environment variable and using this config file scheme like this. So okay, now we get into the meat of the actual demo. It's just this Bitcoin Cash address, and it's just going to check the balance on that address every 3 seconds. So there's this startup script, and this is what actually runs when you run the app. So at first it has no knowledge about an API token. It uses the JWT, the JWT library, to register itself. So it goes out to the auth server and logs in and gets the current JWT token. And so here, if we go back to the output, it says retrieve the JWT token. So it just because it's a demo, it displays the JWT token to the screen, and then it just double checks to make sure that the token is valid. And if it's valid, it says the token's valid, and in this case it was, so it just continued. If it's not valid, it will automatically request a new token. And so if it's a free token, it'll just get it. It'll just work every time. If it's a paid tier with increased rate limits, it might come back and say, you don't have enough funds in your wallet, in which case you need to go back into your account. The idea of this demo and this library is the only thing you should need to worry about is keeping your account topped up by sending Bitcoin Cash to this address, like either this address or this QR code. They're the same thing. And then you click the update credit button, and it will credit your account with the spot price of that amount of Bitcoin Cash. And so that's how you top up your account. And that should be the only thing you need to worry about. And then the rest of this code will just automatically work as long as you do that. So once it's gotten the JWT token, this is really the meat of the demo. This is what the demonstration is intended to show off. This is the automatic way for your app to automatically get a JWT token, make sure it's valid, and start using it. So then it reinstantiates the bch.js library, and it passes in the API token, the JWT token, explicitly. And so that's what this part was referring to. So this is how you explicitly pass in the JWT token. And so then it sets up an interval every 3 seconds. It calls this check balance function. So that check balance function's here, and this is just how it retrieves the balance for that address. Here it's using the blockbook indexer instead of Electrum X. They're both indexers that do largely the same things. Again, this is a feature that FullStack.cash has that rest.bitcoin.com does not have. And so that's sort of a general. This is where you would do your sort of business logic and do whatever it is that your app wants to do with regards to interacting with the Bitcoin Cash blockchain. Okay, so that is an introduction for working with JWT tokens on FullStack.cash. I showed how to create a FullStack.cash account, how to get a JWT token, how to use the jwt-bch-lib npm library, which is included in the jwt-bch-demo that I just walked through here. And again, I'll just conclude by pointing out that if you need any help or you're confused by any of this, click on this button here to go to our Telegram group and reach out to the developer community around FullStack.cash.